We're going to study Parshat Vayetze. And do a little bit of Aviva Gottlieb Zornberg, one of my favorites. And a little bit of some other stuff. So
We want the books?
you're going to need a book. I mean, unless you know it by heart.
I'm not.
I have it in my pocket in Safari.
Yeah.
The wrong part of the couple.
They keep moving them around.
Yeah. So what page does the Parsha begin on?
I have 166.
66.
166. So we're going to start a little earlier, if that's okay. We're going to go to the end of the previous Parsha. And we're going to start on 2743.
2743 is on one page.
Morning.
2740. 150.
Okay.
159.
159.
So what we need to know before we start is,
59.
what does the word Vayetze mean?
And he left. He went out.
And he left or he went out, right?
He
So
exited.
he exited.
That's what the signs say.
Yeah. He exited stage left, right? So our portion begins with this line. Vayetze Yaakov me Beersheva. Jacob leaves from Beersheva and he goes to Haran. So he has an exit place and he has a destination, right? He actually has a place that he's leaving from and a place where he's journeying to. So one of the things we're gonna talk about today is there another patriarch who embarks on a journey?
Abraham.
Abraham.
Yeah, I was gonna say besides the obvious one.
Abraham. Right?
He's so late.
Right, he's told lech. So one of the things we're gonna look at is what's the distinction between lech lecha, which means go forth, go inside yourself, right? This, we can spend hours and days analyzing that.
Did you say
that
patriarchs?
phrase.
You include matriarchs, then you have what's her name? Rachel, who said, "Hey, Lech, let's go."
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, so we're gonna take a look at Jacob's journey, right? Where's the place that Jacob goes to?
Which time?
I'm sorry, Abraham, lech lecha, what's the destination?
To the place I'll show you.
Or to the place that I will show you, right? It's not a name.
It's unclear.
It's not a named destination, right? We know it's Canaan or it's Israel, but that journey doesn't seem to necessarily have a defined destination.
It's not.
Whereas Jacob's journey
It was
is
defined, it just wasn't disclosed.
maybe. It wasn't disclosed. Okay, good. All right, so let's take a look at the origins of Jacob's journey. So if someone can read to me, we're in the end of Parshat Tolda, at the end of last week. We're on page 159. We can just start at Genesis 27, verse 41. Someone want to read 41 and forward?
Now Esau harbored a grudge against Jacob because of the blessing which his father had given him. And Esau said to himself, "Let but the mourning period of my father come, and I will kill my brother Jacob." When the words of her older son Esau were reported to Rebekah, she sent for her younger son Jacob and said to him, "Your brother Esau is consoling himself by planning to kill you. Now, my son, listen to me. Flee at once to Haran, to my brother Laban. Stay with him a while until your brother's fury subsides, until your brother's anger against you subsides, and he forgets what you have done to him. Then I will fetch you from there. Let me not lose you both in one day."
Okay, pause here for a second.
She never fetches them.
Okay, she doesn't fetch him, okay. Why is Jacob leaving? What's the reason for the vayetze?
You want to say trickery? Is that what you'd like to hear?
No,
Oh,
what's
okay.
the reason? I mean, there is a
Get
reason
away
here.
from Esau and not be killed.
Yeah, right. This is a life and death thing, right? Right? Leave to save yourself because your brother is going to harm you.
But it wasn't imminent. So
Besides
that'd
which
be
he
another
has,
reason.
he has the blessing, therefore he has to.
Fulfill the blessing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And what's the word? Does it say, is vayetze used in here? Is it leave?
it says in English.
Flee. It's flee in English.
I choose.
Flee in English.
What number is it?
The Yasafta?
Yeah, barach is to escape.
Oh, Bakum then,
And kum is to
is get up.
go up. Right. Yeah, those are action words, right? But it's not to
They're
leave.
intensive, they're intensive,
They're
more
intensive
intensive
words.
than vayetze.
Yeah, vayetze is not a super active word, correct? He left. He left, right? But to get up and to escape are much more active words, right? That Rivka is using, that Rebecca is using here. All right, so number one is, right, flee, leave for a while, right, while your brother cools down, and then come back.
She makes a feeling of haste.
Yeah.
Like I started to say, she's telling him to go right now, and Esau wasn't going to do anything until after Isaac died. So there was nothing imminent.
I don't know. My reading of the Tanakh is that Esau was a pretty impulsive person, and he also was a violent person. I understand that you guys discussed this last week with Rabbi Jacobs. I wasn't in the class, I didn't watch it, so I don't know. But right, my take of the shot is that Esau could get volatile, and that Jacob was not so strong at that moment, and he couldn't defend himself so well at the moment. He wasn't prepared to wrestle an angel in the middle of the night and win, right? Or at least, get a tie. Right, at this point, Jacob is pretty much a weakling.
But
He's a student.
in the next episode, I won't say how much into the future it is. He rolls that rock off the well all by himself, and it's supposed to take all the shepherds to do it. So he was strong.
They're strong, and that's a different kind of strong.
Different strength.
That is a physical strength, this is a spiritual strength, this was something more intellectual, so there is a difference.
Okay, let's turn the page to 160.
And also there's an element of guilt involved too. He knows that if Esau is angry with them, he's justified.
That's interesting. Yeah. All right, well, now we're on 160. And someone want to read to me? Now, we got Rebecca's version of why she sends him away. Let's get Isaac's version of why he sends Jacob away. Someone want to read 28:1?
So Isaac sent for Jacob and blessed him. He instructed him, saying, "You shall not take a wife from among the Canaanite women. Up, go to Padan Aram, to the house of Bethuel, your mother's father, and take a wife there from among the daughters of Lavan, your mother's brother. May El Shaddai bless you, make you fertile and numerous, so that you become an assembly of peoples. May he grant the blessing of Abraham to you and your offspring, that you may possess the land where you are sojourning, which God assigned to Abraham."
One more
And
percent.
Isaac sent Jacob off, and he went to Padan Aram to Lavan, the son of Bethuel, the Aramean, the brother of Rebekah, mother of Jacob and Esau.
Okay, this reading, what do we get? What's the reason that Jacob leaves according to Isaac's version?
Go get a wife.
The wife.
Get a wife,
But
get a
but it does
wife,
say
right?
Vayatsehu.
Vayatsehu, which verse is that?
We don't think of it, but
It's in one.
Laban and Rivka and Rebecca
Brother-
Fine, they both are sneaky. They both devise plots. Funny, it took me till now to think
But
about it.
Rebecca was a she had prophecy.
I don't care.
Okay, she did, so it's different.
Right, my goal right now is to see, like, let's unpack this, like, we just get this grand opening sentence, right? Jacob leaves. We always think about that, we always think about the reason is, right, this was self-defense, his self-preservation. Esau was gonna kill him, right? There's another couple levels here, right? Level 2 is he had a mission, right? He is going to find a wife. By the way, this is a repeat of what? Sort of.
Abraham,
The London-
getting a wife for Isaac.
Abraham getting a wife for Isaac, right? And we're gonna, in a minute, we're actually gonna look at that story and see, again, there's a difference, right? Because in that story, Isaac is so passive, he isn't even involved, right? Right? Someone else goes, right? The servant, right, goes. And yeah, Nelson?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Miracle. All right. But it could be both because let's get rid of him, leave. I don't want to tell him his brother's going to kill him. Just go get a wife.
All right, you're saying that Isaac is not saying the real reason, or not, he's hiding the reasons of self-preservation and couching it in terms of finding a wife.
Maybe.
Maybe, yeah. Also, what I glossed over is Rebecca and Isaac have a conversation. That's the page we skip where Rebecca says, it really would be nice if Jacob married I'd say a Jewish girl, but right. Jacob married someone from the tribe. From the tribe. How about that, right? That happens. Actually, that's exactly where we stop. So if you want to go back to 150, what were we on?
46.
Yeah, verse 46, right? If you go on the bottom, right? Rebecca said to Isaac, I'm disgusted with my life because of Hittite women, right? Right, because of who Esau chooses, right? Right, if Jacob marries a Hittite woman like these from among the native women, what good will life be for me? Right, so that I did skip that little subtext, which then husband Isaac then goes to son and says, you know what, you should go and find a Jewish girl, right?
And stay in the family.
Stay in the
He was
family.
still being passive.
Still being passive,
Somebody else
right?
made the decision for him.
Yeah, so, right, what is happening with this leaving? What's this word that's used? And interestingly, if you look at verse 5 that we read, right? Isaac sends Jacob off. That's very different than Vayetze Yaakov, right? Which is, again, that's an active, right? Jacob leaves, right? This is different than saying, and dad pushes, sends off son. That's a very different thing.
Go back to verse 2 where
He's sending him with his blessing.
And he's sending him with his blessing, kum lech, and again, go up, right? That same
He's
word.
being
For a
manipulated.
different reason that Rachel wanted.
Different reason, right? This isn't self-preservation. Your brother's gonna harm you. This is, you have a mission, find a wife. All right, now, if you allow me to jump around a little bit, right? You told me about the story at the well. Let's find the story at the well, which begins on page 169. Right, we're skipping the whole ladder thing for the moment. We'll get there. 169 verse 29, 1. Someone want to read that?
I'll read.
Okay, nice and loud.
Jacob resumed his journey and came to the land of the Easterners. There before his eyes was a well in the open. 3 flocks of sheep were lying there beside it, for the flocks were watered from that well. The stone on the mouth of the well was large. When all the flocks were gathered there, the stone would be rolled from the mouth of the well, and the sheep watered. Then the stone would be put back in its place on the mouth of the well. Jacob said to them, "My friends, where are you from?" And they said, "We are from Haran." He said to them, "Do you know Laban, the son of Nahor?" And they said, "Yes, we do." He continued, "Is he well?" They answered, "Yes, he is. And there is his daughter Rachel coming with the flock." He said, "It is still broad daylight, too early to round up the animals, water the flock, and take them to pasture." But they said, "We cannot until all the flocks are rounded up. Then the stone is rolled off the mouth of the well, and we water the sheep." While he was still speaking with them, Rachel came with her father's flock, for she was a shepherdess. And when Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of his uncle Laban, and the flock of his uncle Laban, Jacob went up and rolled the stone off the mouth of the well and watered the flock of his uncle Laban. Then Jacob kissed Rachel and broke into tears. Jacob told Rachel that he was her father's kinsman and that he was Rebekah's son. And she ran and told her father. On hearing the news of his sister's son Jacob, Laban ran to greet him. He embraced him and kissed him and took him into his house. He told Laban all that had happened, and Laban said to him, "You are truly my bone and flesh."
Okay, so comment number one is, and then I'll open it up. Whenever I think about this story, it's actually different than the way it reads. I always think about it that it was this like original love story, right? Like Jacob finds Rachel, they fall in love immediately at the well, and they kiss. I'm going to give you a second reading of this, right? The word love does not appear here, right? Right? Why are they kissing?
Their first cousin.
Because they're mishbocha.
Right.
They're kissing because in fact, right, 2 verses later, he kisses his uncle, right? It's the same word used, right?
They still do that. I mean,
And they still do that, right? Right? But again, I don't know if you had that like memory, right? My memory is, right? Jacob falls in love with Rachel at the well, right? And it's sort of love at first sight, and they get married, right? That's actually not here, right? This is Jacob, if you remember, is running away. He's not sure if he's ever going to see his family again. His brother wants to kill him. Both of his parents say, leave, for different reasons, right? And he actually now is overcome with emotion because he has reconnected with the family who he was either meant to find or, right, he wasn't sure if he was ever going to find them. And they didn't have GPS or maps, but or maybe they have maps. I don't know.
He
Right?
feels
Right?
right.
Probably was some element of love here because 1 month later in verse 18, he did love her.
Well, I'm going to get to the.
They might
reading
jump
on that.
ahead for you.
Right,
too
well,
much.
I mean, I guess I'll tell you, right, like,
Well, he
I get-
was safe with his.
you knew he was safe, and what Aviva Gottlieb Zornberg says is, contrary to the story of Isaac and the servant and the well, where there was some like divine, cosmic forces bringing them together, right? And she was chosen for her character traits that would be ideal. This is really just a love story, right? He ends up staying with his mishpacha. He sleeps over, and after a while, he falls in love with the daughter. Like it just happened, right? This is not like some cosmic thing happening. 2 young people find each other and they fall in love, right? Is that an okay reading? 2 20-year-olds or however 13, I don't know how old they were, right? Yeah, 2 whatever-year-olds are staying over in the same house. They're staying up late. They're talking and they fall in love. Could you imagine that happening?
I'm thinking he's a lot older than we think because I believe Esau didn't marry until he was 40 and that episode already happened.
I don't remember the age. I have to think about
I'm
that.
pretty
But
sure it was 40.
regardless of the ages, right? Like nothing here says they fell in love yet, right? Right here, this is, I feel safe. I found my mission. I'm finally I have a home. I didn't know if I'd ever have a home in my life, right? This is just love. And you can, the question of this rolling of the stone and miraculous strength, I don't know, earlier in the reading, it said like they rolled the stone every day.
Yeah, but it took all of them to do it.
Doesn't say.
Or is that, it doesn't say, I see it doesn't say that. here.
Doesn't
Is that-
say it,
Is that
right?
midrash?
It's midrash, right? Yeah, right. So, okay, like again, right, we think that this is this miraculous, incredible love story, right? Jacob is overcome with Rachel and he gathers all his strength and he lifts the stone, right, to water, right, to give her water, resembling the story from the generation ago where the camels are watered, right?
Right.
Right?
Yeah, but
But there it's, in
Rebecca did it.
that case, Rebecca did it right again.
Jacob does.
Again, so there are similar metaphors, there are similar themes, but it's very different. This is just, okay. This, again, like what Aviva Zornberg is getting at is there's actually, there's maybe hidden divinity here. There's hidden like stars crossing, but it's not as blatant as the previous generation. This is just, he was a kid on the lam,
The fact that-
trying to find safety.
The fact that he went off to Haran and happened on the right well at the right time, there is divine intervention there.
Not disagreeing, but it's not as blatant. It's not as like the words, like in the story in Isaac, it like specifically says God, God. There's a lot of God references in the Isaac verse. Is there any God reference in here?
God forbid, no.
Right? God forbid, no. By the way, what we skipped was the whole section of Jacob's ladder and the dream and talking to God and praying to God and saying, right, I didn't know God was in this place, right? And now I surely know it, right? Like, I didn't think God was here and God is here. Like, literally, that's the next thing, right? Where he had, again, we skipped it, so you have to know the story. But right, the previous thing is, I didn't think God was with me, but God is always with me and protecting me. And then this story, it's not like, thank God I found my family. He could have said that, right? Right?
Yeah.
Doesn't say it. Doesn't say it.
Now, were there any other girls? Did Lavan have any other girls?
Yeah.
Daughters?
Leah.
Yeah.
Leah.
We don't hear about it.
I don't know. I don't remember.
He's a good. He obviously didn't have any.
Oh, wait,
He obviously.
wait,
didn't
that's
have-
who?
He just talks about these two.
Oh, you're saying other than Leah?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I'm assuming he didn't have any sons, or otherwise Rachel wouldn't have been doing the.
He had 3 of them,
Shepherding.
21 years.
Yeah, he does work for 21 years, but yeah, more.
I thought it was 20.
28.
20, but yeah, it would have been 21. Yeah. Yeah, it would have been more and
Seems
more and
like,
more.
right.
Would have been more and more.
thing of is also that, that there's a lack of real, I don't know how young. What's his name? Jacob was. But he's working 7 years and another 7 years. You gotta have children, he can't be old, although it didn't seem to bother them in those days.
Does Jacob say he, like, when he finds Rachel and finds Lavan for that moment, oh, and now I can marry someone in my family?
Just happy to have found
I'm
them.
just happy to have found him. And another sort of theme that Aviva Gottlieb Zornberg writes about in the chapter and about this parsha is Jacob is always searching to make a home. And in fact, the previous chapter, when he has the dream of the ladder, right? Do you know what he names the place?
Bethel.
Bethel, Beit El, house of God, right? Home of God, right? So there's a running theme again in the story about the idea of creating home. So now getting back to this word vayetze, to leave. In order to get married, does one typically have to, other than the Isaac story, does one typically have to leave their home?
No.
Yeah.
Right? What's the classic line? What's a classic line in the Torah about a couple getting together?
You
Woman goes to
leave
man.
your,
Yeah.
your home and family,
Yes,
and you establish a new home
yes,
with the person you marry.
yes, which is. Okay, I'll get you the text. We'll take a look at it in a minute. I gotta get the source. It's on page 17. Page 17. Genesis 2:24. A man leaves his father and mother and clings to his wife, so they become one flesh. Sound familiar?
Yeah.
Okay, what's necessary to happen in order for a man to get married? According to this,
You gotta
Yes, so
say-
Leave his home.
you gotta leave your home.
What is Azav?
Another word for like
Yeah, Azav
What?
actually here.
moving. Yeah.
It has nothing to do with Yetze though. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, it's a different word. Similar. Yeah. Right, so, right, man must leave their home, right? So what's the name of our parsha? Vayetze, to leave. Right, so that leaving was necessary in order to grow up, right?
Does it have to be a physical leaving as opposed to an emotional?
Now you're getting deeper. Yeah, now you're getting deeper.
What's the context here
For which one? Sorry.
for this? Hence a man leaves his father, and mother. This is still Adam and Eve, no?
I mean, because do they have a father or mother? Yeah, it's an interesting lie, right? When you think about it, they didn't have a father. I mean, Hashem, I guess, right? Right? The first couple didn't have a parent that he needed to leave. Right?
They had to leave the garden.
Yeah, but not yet, right? Not yet. They were still in the garden. This story, this verse actually happens right after the garden and right after God makes woman from man's rib, right? It's an interesting verse. That sort of
It sounds like it's out of place.
sort of sounds like it's out of place. Yeah, it is an interesting question. Aviva Zornberg again writes about it here that like Adam and Eve are this ideal couple, right? They're the only one that don't have to leave their parents' home.
Even Abel had a leave.
Yeah.
Which I never can remember which is which.
Cain kills
Cain-
Abel.
Cain had a leave.
Cain kills Abel.
Cain had a leave.
Yeah, okay. Another sort of understanding of this word vayetze, right? Why necessary to leave? This is sort of one of the classic ones from Rashi, which is why leaving? That when a righteous person leaves, we feel a loss in a place. That there is less light and there is a void. Have you ever been in a place where someone moves out of town and you feel, that there is a loss?
Jerry.
Yeah.
Emptiness.
Yeah, there's an emptiness, right? So that vayetze, when you take leave, there you do take something, there's at least for someone who is great, right? There is something that goes with them. All right, let's see what else.
And when you pack your children off to go to college.
Oh,
Yeah,
And they don't come back.
yeah. And obviously, which we didn't get yet also is this whole portion is a portion about transformation. Right? Jacob leaves as a young man, a boy, whatever, right? Like basically still growing up in his parents' home, quarreling with his brother, vying for competitive nature for his father's blessing, right? And right, the end of the next parsha, by the end of Vayetze, our parsha right now, he has 4 wives, 12 children,
No, only 11.
or 11 children. Yeah, right?
12. He had Dina.
Yeah, 12 children, Dina.
The daughter that.
Right, Dina, right? 4 wives, right? 12
I was only
children,
counting the boys.
right? He has he has inner emotional strength, right? We can argue about physical strength, right? He is a different person, right? Vayetze, in order to grow up and transform, he needed to go on a journey. He needed to leave. He needed to vayetze.
But isn't it sort of developmental anyhow that,
Yes,
independent,
it's very
when they're 18,
developmental.
19, they want to become independent from their parents, they move out, they go to college,
100%.
an apartment.
They didn't have that back then.
So I mean, it was.
Although the
Right. Well, think about it. Back then, you didn't leave your parents' house, I think. I'm not
Right.
not a biblical sociologist, but right. You stayed, you were a shepherd. Maybe you took the sheep on trips, but right, you did what the livelihood that your parents had, right? And you lived in the same house, or maybe you built a house next door to them, right? This is very different. Right? Isaac doesn't do that, right? Isaac lives in his parents' tent. Right? He brings Rebecca into his mother's tent. Right? That's sort of the natural progression. Whereas Jacob breaks the mold, and this is the developmental mold that we even still have today, right? In order to grow up, we need to leave and make our own mark.
Although the circumstances are totally different, Joseph does too.
Very right, but those were coerced.
I said the circumstances
Yeah.
were totally different, but
Yeah.
he didn't grow up either until. he
Right,
was in
so
Egypt.
there, and by the way,
It's done.
if we want to go back to the original story of Abraham and Sarah, right? That creates that mold, lech lecha. Again, we were trying to say how different vayetze is, but if we want to look at how similar it is, right? Leave, right? Go forth from your ancestral home, your father's home, the land that you know, to go to the place where I will show you, right? So God imprints that really the ideal path is to
If you're home.
developmentally develop on your own independently from your parents.
Can you say that this also is sort of an instruction to go establish yourself in different countries so that you're not necessarily conquering them, but you are. You're gonna be elsewhere. You're not, he does tell Abraham he's going to be the father of many nations and he's got to get out of his own little house if he wants to do this.
Could be.
Wouldn't want to know what Hamas would do with this. But-
Yeah.
Well, with Abraham, he was sent on a mission by God.
Mhm.
But the others are fulfilling the mission by leaving, and by going all over the place.
Yeah.
Nelson's hands.
Nelson, yes.
I just want to remind everybody that basically America is a nation of immigrants, and particularly for Jews. I don't know how many of you parents or grandparents came from another country. My parents were born in the Soviet Union. In the Soviet Union. And they were born before the Soviet Union, but in places that became the Soviet Union. That's a very American Jewish experience.
So we're all living vayetze and lech lecha, some combo of vayetze, lech lecha, or
The diaspora.
I was gonna say, or Joseph, where it was coercive, but yeah. 100%. All right, I'm jumping around a little bit, if that's
I wanted
okay.
to bring up, which
That's
was,
something you wanted, as opposed to the thing I wanted to bring up, yes.
no, I mean, when God tells, which one was it? Jacob, that he's gonna be like the sands of the earth. The numbers, and I'm thinking, yeah, they're very lightweight and they get blown all over the place. So that we're supposed to be in the diaspora.
Yeah, but that, here it's different, by the way. Now, I would argue, yeah.
I know you will. So
Yeah, all
everybody-
right, well, we'll look, just because you said it, go turn to page 167. Just to look at one specific verse.
Dust of the earth, not sand.
All right, if you look at the top of 167, it's
14.
28:13, right? The Lord was standing beside him and said, I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham, the God of Isaac. The ground on which you are lying, I will assign to you and your offspring. Which ground is that, by the way? Israel. This is Israel. This is Jacob left, but he didn't cross the boundary to leave into Haran yet. He's still in Israel at the moment, or Canaan. Your descendants shall be as the dust of the earth. Here's your line. But I want to look at the next phrase. You shall spread out to the west and to the east, to the north and the south. Hebrew. Ufaratsta, yama v'kedma, safona v'nekba. Right? You shall spread out to the yama. What's yama mean?
Oh, I am.
Right? This is to the Mediterranean Sea, right? This is west. The Kedma, which is east, which is the Jordan River. Safona.
I'm sure it's not the, what's the word?
Safona, north.
The next river, Euphrates.
Yeah, the Negba and the Negev. Right, the southern desert. Right, so I'm not sure it means spread out exile and blown everywhere.
but
To
the-
me,
the next-
this is, dare I say, from the river to the sea. Right? I mean, literally. I mean, right?
Yeah, that's where it
Literally.
comes from.
That's where it comes from, folks. Yeah. Right? This is literally Yama does not, I mean, it means they translate it as west, but Yama is sea. Yeah. Yeah, right. So
But at the
Mediterranean.
same time, God is giving him reassurance to remember that God is with him. So that when he goes to all these strange places.
Yeah, 100. Yeah, right. I'm giving a very focused reading on something. Yeah, Stephen, if you can unmute yourself while you're driving safely, I'm happy to hear.
From the river to the sea, Israel always be free. Guarantee.
Sorry, you got to mute yourself. Sorry, you are not coming through clearly. Whatever you said, I'm sure it was great. But yeah. Sorry, we can't hear you though.
I was good. Go on to the next half.
From the river to the sea, Israel will always be free. It's God's guarantee.
Got it. Thank you.
What I was.
So, yeah, there was something else I wanted to say about that verse. Let me see if I can find it. By the way, do you know what the word faratsta means? Ufaratsta?
First out.
So there's actually two readings of the word ufaratsta, right? Here they say spread, right? Is spread like a nice word? Yeah, so if you're a Hebrew speaker, horetz or ufaratsta is more of a active, almost like volatile, destructive word. To horetz is to break, to break open. Like if the example is in the Mishnah, if an animal, is in a fenced in cage and breaks it open, that's that word. Yeah. So here, ufaratz, it's not like, oh, you're going to spread and cover so beautifully. This is, you are going to
Scatter.
Yeah.
Is it also for saying that there's people living there and you're gonna have to fight?
Yeah, right. That's I think what it is. Yeah. Yeah.
Before we end, could you comment on the puzzling in Haggadah, the wandering Armenian?
The wandering Aramean. Yeah, not the wandering Armenian. The wandering Aramean. Yeah. Ami Oved Avi. Yeah. Sure, nothing. Is it puzzle? Yeah, it's very puzzle. Well, the question is, are we talking about Abraham or are we talking about Jacob? Right? Right. That's like the question, and Lavan. Right. So I'm not, how about we'll save it for closer to Pesach? We can look at it more closely. How about that?
Okay.
That sound like a deal, and I can actually bring it in and we'll look at some sources. So let me give you the 5 minutes of what I've prepared that we didn't do. And then, because it's already 9:42. Number one is, again, like, we could have looked more closely at the Isaac marriage versus Jacob and seen where there really is, seems to be divine things. So like, if you look closely in our parsha, right, it says, after staying with, this is on page 171 at the top, 29:15. Right, after staying in Laban's house for a month, Laban says to Jacob, just because your family, should you serve me for nothing? Tell me what your wages should be. Right, now Laban had 2 daughters. The name of one was Leah, the younger was Rachel. Leah had weak eyes, Rachel was shapely and beautiful. Jacob loved Rachel, so he answered, I will serve you 7 years for your younger daughter, Rachel. Right, period. Does it say they fell in love?
No.
Not yet.
Does it say, who is the narrator, who's saying that she was shapely and
Wait,
beautiful?
it does say they were.
Jacob loved her.
18.
Oh, verse 18, okay. All right, Jacob loved Rachel, okay, but who says that she was shapely and beautiful, whereas Leah had weak eyes? Does Jacob say that, or does the Torah say it? The Torah says it, right? So it doesn't say like why he fell in love with her, it doesn't say it's because she was beautiful and potentially Leah wasn't. It doesn't say whether Leah was or wasn't. Right, so again, right, this is, again, Avivas Zornberg says, right, this is just a regular love story. Regular, right, they fell in love. They were living in the same house.
But you would again have Leah, it's the successor, the inheritor,
Mhm,
Rachel,
mhm.
and Leah is, they put, like with Esau, Ishmael, these people are not quite worthy of being the firstborn, of having all the privileges of a firstborn.
Mhm.
I mean, why do they just mention her weak eyes? They're putting her down constantly.
Isn't it painting him as being shallow?
Jacob.
Jacob.
Yeah.
Maybe. Maybe.
I mean, if it's using that as justification for his choice.
It is. Yeah. Yes. But again, right, we're still in the early stages of Jacob. Right? He's transforming. He transforms through the parsha, right?
He transforms his entire life.
He transforms his entire, right? This is still early. This is where he actually, later on it says he doesn't love Leah, right? Even though he keeps having kid after kid after kid with Leah, right? Right. In fact, and she's not, she is necessary for many things, but among them is that, right, she gives birth to Judah and Levi and Reuben, like really important tribes in the story of the Jewish people. And, like there's like a lot of interesting stuff happening here, right?
She must be a good mother.
She's a very good mother. Yeah.
I'm jumping ahead and have a question that I don't have an answer to.
Yes,
And the first 10 sons,
yes.
who did they marry? Where did they get their wives?
Who did they marry?
Where all of a sudden it didn't matter where they came from.
I mean,
I don't think it says anywhere in the Torah.
back then, when a woman married a man, she became Jewish automatically.
Right. So then,
That was pre-conversion.
so then the Hittite women that Esau married would also have been that.
I guess
And
they
were
didn't
complaining
like,
about
I
that.
guess they didn't like Hittite women. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, I'm thinking these 10 sons
Yes, they
probably
didn't like
married Hittite women also.
All right, so what didn't I cover that we're gonna do, 1 second? The whole portion, there's a theme of darkness that runs through the portion. Right, from the opening of meeting God, right, at the ladder. And that Jacob supposedly starts and prays Mariv. He's the first person that ever prays a prayer at night, according to tradition, right? And he has a dream of darkness, right? Jacob theoretically doesn't sleep for the 20 years of servitude that he did. What is he doing at night when he doesn't sleep? The Torah doesn't say this. There's a midrash. He is learning. He studies Torah, Talmud. I don't know what existed back then, right? Or there's another version that he starts writing prayers and that who do we say wrote the book of Psalms?
David.
Sefer Tehillim, David, but actually the rabbis understand and they, even though we say David wrote the Psalms, if you look, some of them are ascribed to other people. Actually, Moses wrote two, it says there were two written by Moses, and Korach's sons wrote a few, and there are some other ones that are actually ascribed to different people, right? So tradition has it actually that Jacob started to write Psalms, and that some of the Psalms are specifically connected to Jacob and his life. So they say at night that he was composing prayer. So different things that happen at night, and there's this idea of darkness and deception, and obviously he marries the wrong wife, right? All this sort of, there's like darkness stuff that happens in his life, and the idea of sort of finding your way through darkness. And to give you a little bit of what Aviva Zornberg says, this is a story of exile, of dislocation, but they are not absolute states. For in the end, there is unity and continuity. The volatile, ever-changing world of exile has the power to generate reintegration and return. This is a parsha filled with pain, loss, sorrow, strength, exile, alienation, growth, and transformation. Jacob is restless, he stays up all night, and he transforms. And if I can shift us for a second, which I'm not going to do justice to or anything, but obviously we are all thinking about the hostages, praying that the next 13 or however many are, God willing, going to be released in the next few hours and come home, and thinking about that for 49 days. They've been in darkness, in exile, in pain. And so if we're talking about darkness, if we're talking about composing prayer, if we're talking, a lot of my colleagues have been asking themselves and saying, we pray, we believe in God, right? And this is challenging a lot of my colleagues. Right? Like, where's God in? Have you been asking yourself, where's God in all this? Right? Where's that glimmer of God? Right? And maybe in the last couple of days, we've seen that glimmer of God, right? That God is there in the darkness. And maybe Jacob can teach us. Jacob, the first person who prayed at night, prayed in a perilous state when he left, right? When he was sort of in the middle of nowhere, right? And the word there, which we didn't look at, is vayifka. He came upon a God. He didn't know that God was there with him. It's my hope and my prayer that for all the abducted hostages, that they feel God and that God is with them and watching over them, and that they all come home very soon. And then the next, that's the end of the class. At the next time, then we'll talk about which was the other half, which I prepared, but we're not going to do is
With the hostages.
how much, the deal, right? Like there is a deal, right? There are, for every innocent Israeli that was stolen, right? 3 terrorists, many of them who attempted murder, right, are being released, plus all the other humanitarian, right, things that are happening, right? And how much is it worth? But then looking through, if you remember, 1,000 terrorist prisoners were released for Gilad Shalit, right? So,
including the one who was responsible for October 7th.
Yes, which is problematic. Yeah, I know. I opened up a can of worms at 9:52. Right. So, right. Just to say, we'll talk about this another day, but that's obviously in my thoughts. And this is a Parsha class, so I was going to talk about the Parsha, but I'll sort of bring us back, right? This is a story about exile, about losing home, making home, coming back. Not whole. Jacob actually doesn't return whole. Right? He actually returns injured. Right? After the wrestling, he is wounded, scarred for his life, and yet he is able to rebuild his life and to make a family. So that's my hope for all those who are missing. They come home. Shabbat shalom.